Usually you bring up the word tariff, like at a party or something, everybody flees. Suddenly now it's the hottest topic around, and it is a fascinating history. Trump said, oh, trade wars aren't so bad. And so I was wondering, well, what trade wars did he have in mind? The worst trade war of the 20th century is generally considered to be triggered by the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act. Everybody agrees that was a disaster. It made the Depression worse. People even argue that it fueled the rise of fascist parties in Europe by cutting off Germany from its natural trading partners. But looking back, if there's one lesson that clearly stands out, is that the real winners of most trade wars are the countries that do not get into the trade war. Because once you've got a trade war going on, the participants have to turn elsewhere. So in all of the Canadian-US trade wars throughout history, and there have been many, the British Empire always was the winner because Canada had to turn back to Britain. Soviet Russia was the big winner after World War I. They were completely excluded when after the Tsar was overthrown. Once the trade barriers went up, countries like Italy had to turn back to Russia. Those commercial ties are still going on. So it's very surprising sometimes you end up actually helping your enemies.
To be clear, we're at no Smoot-Hawley right now. That was thousands and thousands and thousands of products that we put tariffs on. But the fear is, what if we keep ratcheting up?
Yes, exactly. And I think Trump's comments that we just heard suggest, well, we're not there yet. And I think the benign view here is he's using this as sort of a bargaining chip in a broader effort to acquire leverage in many other bilateral negotiations. Now, again, history suggests the minute you start tying the tariff issues to non-tariff matters, even as he's kind of hinted, threatening to reduce troop commitments to Europe, which, by the way, also happened in the 60s, that has not worked. People get very upset about it. They get very angry. On the other hand, I was talking to Jim Cramer earlier this week. Here's a really wild scenario. He uses the tariff leverage with China to put more pressure on North Korea. North Korea caves in. They get rid of the nuclear weapons. Trump wins the Nobel Peace Prize.
You know how many times I heard this?
I know. Well, we started it. He shares it with the president of South Korea, and everybody's happy. I mean, that's the wild, benign theory. They don't work out that way.
I just can't believe you spent 30 seconds on it again here.
You talk about the history of trade wars being unkind, but the Trump history, if you want to just talk about the Trump history of negotiating, this is how he does it. This is his style. Who's to say that this is nothing more than a negotiating tactic? You threaten to push them against the ropes and throw a couple of punches if you have to, but at the end of the day, they are going to come back with terms that are more appealing to the United States.
Well, that's true, and we don't know yet exactly how this is going to be handled. Certainly, the rhetoric is very protectionist. The rhetoric from his advisors is also very protectionist. But another lesson I have to say from history is that if there's a huge imbalance between wealth and power in a trade war, the wealthy country wins. The big example was France and Italy, the late 19th century. Italy slapped tariffs against France. France crushed Italy. Italy got rid of them. They begged France not to retaliate. They kept them going for years. The Italian economy suffered tremendously. In bilateral negotiations between the U.S. and weaker countries, we have tremendous leverage. Most people think we have tremendous leverage with Canada and Mexico. There's a big enough an imbalance. Here's where we do not have a lot of leverage. That's the European Union and probably China as well.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.